Welcome back to Switch to Linux, and I went online to check the recent Linux news update, and wow, the new Linux Mint 22 beta is out. And I was actually expecting this to be later on in the month, but indeed they've already rolled it out. So Linux Mint 22, this would be 22.0, and this version will be supported until 2029. So we have a number of years on this. And this has been a fairly anticipated launch with the new Cinnamon 622 and a number of other features. It really makes this undisputably one of the best versions of Linux Mint that comes out. And I know that myself and other YouTubers talking about Linux will always talk about the latest version of this distribution is the best. Absolutely. Well, actually, if you watch my channel, I'm a little bit more objective than that. But there's a couple things in this, and at least one thing I can point out immediately I'm not a huge fan of. But everything else, this is one of the best releases. So let's go ahead and have a brief detour. We're going to look at the new features and the release notes here, but we're also going to just kind of walk through the whole distribution itself. So the installation was exactly the same as every other time you install Linux Mint. There's nothing new or surprising in that. So if we go ahead and have a look at our system information here, we are on Linux Mint 22. We are on the Cinnamon desktop version 623. So I guess there's been a version update since I did my video on the Cinnamon desktop last week. And we are running in a virtual machine. We are on X. Of course, that has not changed. That Wayland is still highly experimental. We're not going to have a look at Wayland in this video, but we can go ahead and look at that at a later time. So the next steps here, you want to choose your desktop colors. Again, nothing has changed in any of this. We have our new options. This is our new theme layout where you can just basically select X, Linux Mint L, Linux Mint X, or Linux Mint Y. So you can see if you want to go back to the more classic view, you can go ahead and pick whichever one of those you prefer. I do actually like the modern one. And then you can choose your accent colors. I think the default is this blue-yellow now rather than the green. Some people say maybe it should still be green, being it's Linux Mint and all. But there's a number of different colorations you can choose from. This one's more like an Ubuntu type color. We have reds, we have purples. And if you want to go back to the old classic way, this is the more advanced where you can select your pointers, you can select your layouts. This is one of the things that Linux Mint is getting more and more of these. It's adding new versions every once in a while, and it's not removing the old ones because some people really like the older style. And so with that, this is getting pretty full up with things. It might be about time to think about removing some of these and just making the packages available to install if one wants to. And so that certainly is an option that we can look at. But the main simplified options here is actually pretty stinking nice. So I personally, I generally like the mixed one more. And that's kind of what my preference goes with there. Get a darker menus and sides and light on everything else. So there you go. We'll go ahead and run with this. Let's go ahead and let's go with the red today. So we'll do that. All right. So the next thing, of course, snapshots have stayed the same. Driver manager stayed the same. The update manager has stayed the same. Now, one of the things that we get inside of Linux Mint now is we have by default a more modern kernel. That used to be a thing where it used to ship with like 5.15 was the last LTS kernel it released with, and that is getting pretty old. And the reason they did that is there were issues with the newer kernels from time to time, and to maintain the best overall stability, they held the kernels back. They have determined that the number of issues with a kernel update have drastically fallen off lately, so you have a lot better stable support using the latest kernel. So they're doing this, which allows you to use Linux Mint on a more up-to-date hardware, which has been an issue. They've released the Edge versions in the past, which has the newer kernel. With this, they may not release those, but we'll kind of see what happens down the road. Now, the other thing you want to look at that is a little bit different is the software manager. This is the version of the software manager that rolled out the new adjustments to Flatpak. Of course, Flatpak did some adjustments where They created the verified and the unverified, and by default now Linux Mint will only show Flatpaks where the developer of the software is actually the one packaging the Flatpak itself. You want to turn that on, turn on the all Flatpaks. You can go ahead and go into your settings and turn on your show unverified Flatpaks. Now, this is where there's been a little bit of controversy in this current era, is that some people are saying that the way Flatpak itself is suggesting security is somewhat flawed, and I do agree to a point. So what they're doing here is they're preventing people from grabbing somebody else's software and packaging it. They're not looking at, is the developer of the software the one packaging it? The question is, can you still trust that developer? Now, they are telling you who the developers are in each of these cases, so you can look into it yourself. But the question remains is, just because a Flatpak is verified, does that mean we can inherently trust it? And the answer is ultimately no. But at least they have taken this step. At least it gives them more of an illusion of transparency if it's not entirely transparent altogether. So here we can look for things. Let's look at, if I remember correctly, I think Google Chrome may not be packaged. So you can see that the Google Chrome here has the little red shield. That means it is an unverified. So it means that it's not packaged by Google. So some person who is not Google is packaging this particular Flatpak. And so the question is, would you like to use that or not? There are other ways to get Google Chrome directly from Google if one wants that. But most of your other Flatpak options, it is packaged by the person. You can see down here it says the GIMP team. You'll also notice that this has reviews and other information that is not available on unverified Flatpaks. And so that's kind of the step they're doing. Is this good or not good? Again, it boils down to, do you trust the person packaging the software itself? And that really is where the question of this is. Overall, their new software manager is a lot faster. It is a lot more robust. And so I do like what they're doing here. We still have good, sane categories. You can search for things inside of here. You can search for the things that you have. So here, as you can see, unzip is installed. Let's see if we still have the option to choose what we have selected. I'm not sure if we do. I generally use, believe it or not, after a while in Linux, I tend to use the terminal more than anything. So I don't know about as much as how to use it all, but overall that works out nicely. Now inside of your settings, we do have a new option under your actions. If you remember, the actions are the new options that allows you to adjust your menu here. So if you wanted to have, for example, if you want to pull up that system monitor on a regular basis, you can come over here and type in your system monitor. And once this is done downloading, there you go. There's your system monitor. You can go ahead and do that. And now that that is installed, you can add your system monitor. And now we have a GNOME system monitor on our right-click menu. So you can do that. Now, what they've added is this new button for layouts, and we covered this in more detail in my Cinnamon video, so you can refer to that, but you can see what we can do here is we can move these things around. We can fully customize that menu now. And so you can have the option to create submenus, new separators, or things like that. What I did find before is that sometimes your separators didn't work as well, or the organization of things didn't work as well. I don't know if they fixed that or not. Let's see. So display, let's see, open. Okay, just trying to see what is where. What can we add to determine if we have something there? You know, this verifies here, but it doesn't show up. That means, you know, we have to verify. We have to right-click on a file. So these will show up contextually where it makes sense to do them. If there's a drive, the Format tab will show up. So you have options there, but now we have the layout. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works. You can refer to my other video where we looked specifically at the changes in the 6.2 desktop environment. So we're not going to cover all of those in here, but let's have a brief look at our release notes and our new features. So basic release notes is just telling you things, just basic notes about the system itself. There's things like if you want to use Wine, the best way to do it is install it through the terminal, because this adds a lot of extra files that are not available when you just install it from the package repository. And then there's just a few other options that you have inside of there. We want to look at the new features, however. So this guy here, and most of these will apply to all of them, but there are a few things that will apply just to one particular version or another. One thing that I really like is language support. They did a better job of removing old languages. That being said, I did still find if you go in here, every version of English is installed, whether it's useful to me or not. You can see there's still 23 languages in here. And if I look at what those 23 languages are, then you can see it's like English Denmark, English Hong Kong, English India, English Ireland. I do not need those. I need English United States and nothing else. And this is what causes some issue when you're updating, for example, like LibreOffice updates. It has to go through and update the help documents for all of these languages. So I thought that they were going to get rid of all these. What they did do is they got rid of the older unused languages, Russian, German, French. There were a couple other languages on the distro itself. I thought they were going to get rid of all of these except the contextual one based on your location, but they didn't go that far, sadly. But at least they did do a better job of removing other unused languages. So they say the pre-installed languages other than English you selected are removed at the end of installation. But if you want to, so the languages it supports: English, German, Spanish, French, Russian, Portuguese, Dutch, and Italian. So these are the ones that are pre-installed that remained on the system in the past, and those are now removed. However, that English carries with it all of those different regions, which I still think is overkill, but at least they've removed some of the older languages, which does reduce some of the extra files that are there. As far as newer technologies, this does ship with the Ubuntu 24.04 codebase. Now, because of that, we are getting the we're getting Thunderbird from the Deb package, and Linux Mint is managing that rather than getting it from the Snap, because of course Ubuntu 24.04 did the Snap version. We do have the kernel 6.8, which is going to follow the HWE series, so that means that we will not have an Edge release, most likely. Default sound server is switched to Pipewire from Pulse Audio. Many will be interested in that. And there was a change in the Deb 822 format we've talked about in the past. That is now completely made here. So the system is following the modern Debian standards. Themes are updated for GTK4, and there's some extra support dealing with some of the back-end packages. Now, one of the major features is, here's where they talk about the Thunderbird, but with GNOME 46, they moved to a backend for the online accounts, which actually killed online accounts in Cinnamon, Budgie, and in Unity. So what Linux Mint did here is they created an X app, which any distribution can package and use, and the X app is a GNOME online accounts function. So if I go back into here, there is an online accounts, and it is actually, as I illustrated in my previous video, it should still be in the settings. Here it is. So it still will show up in the settings if you install the online accounts X app, even on a distribution that's not in the repository, because I did that on Arch. You can see that now we have a more up-to-date online account. We have Google, Basic WebDAV, Basic IMAP, and SMTP. We have a Nextcloud. We have Microsoft Personal. We have Office 365. We have Microsoft Exchange. So any application that utilizes the online account system, like Evolution, in theory, you just have to enter your email information here, and everything that can tie into the online accounts should be able to access those. I haven't tested that in its entirety, but that's the idea. Now, what this caused is the ability to actually now have online accounts in Mate and XFCE, two distributions that previously have not had much ability to use online accounts in a global way. Now they have it, thanks to Linux Mint doing this as the X app. And of course, thank GNOME for killing that application and everything but GNOME. GNOME Font Viewer was removed. That's the one sad thing. I'm a nerd. I actually did use. Oh, look at that. They did actually give us a font app, however. Oh, that's just the font selection. Okay, never mind. boring. This is in the settings. This allows you to change the fonts of your system itself. So it'll be down here somewhere. There it is, font selection. So if I wanted to go ahead and change this to like Ubuntu Condensed Medium or something, it'll change the default system font to whatever I'm changing that to. So let me make a change there, hit select. So if you do, let's see, desktop font, select, window title font. Let's go with that one. So you can see that changes the window title font. That's that. What we're talking about here, though, is there was a font viewer that allowed you to view all the fonts on your system. Sadly, they have removed that. There's other ones we can install, but I might be, one of 4 people that actually use that. So I'll go cry in the corner and I'll be done with it. And I'll just install something. Okay. They did downgrade Celluloid, GNOME Calculator, Simple Scan, etc., because of GTK 3 versions. Here we talked about the software manager, where we talked about this before with the Flatpaks and the Flatpak issues. The other thing that we have is somewhere in here, we have a Matrix server. So they are now pre-installing Matrix on the system. This is through a web app. So the reason they did this, of course, is HexChat is no longer being maintained, and so they didn't want to continue to package that. And what they didn't want to do is have to work with keeping that up to date or worry about it, being compromised. So they actually switched some of their help support over to Matrix. So you can actually come in and click the application, and then this is going to open up a Matrix instance inside of a Firefox web app. So it's going to come over here, and it should ask us for a login. So those that are using Matrix, you now don't even have to install anything else. You can use this. Of course, if you still want to install a standalone, you can do that. Of course, if you do that and you sign in, go ahead and search us up over here. So here's the Linux Mint. You can join the Linux Mint group over here. Of course, we'd have to create an account for that. And we should actually have our own switched to Linux. Let's see if I can find it over there. And let's see. I'm not seeing it right there. We do have our own Matrix room there. So there you go. There's our public space, 282 members. If you do jump on and use this, you want to join us over on Switch to Linux, you can go ahead and join over there. We have a number of different boards to hang out on. Again, if you can't find us in the public space down there, on our website, switchedtolinux.com, the direct link is in the bottom. And thanks for Salbu for getting that figured out why we weren't in the public spaces. So that is what they did for communicating with people. So if you're unfamiliar with Matrix, it is a FOSS version, effectively, of Discord. Very similar functions and features to it, only it is, of course, privacy respecting. Here we talked about the Cinnamon 6.2 changes. We talked about most of these over in our previous video, so I'm going to go ahead and leave you that one as we close out this video. I'll leave you that one, so if you want to learn more about this Cinnamon 6.2 desktop, hopefully they improved a few things. And then they did things like your stickies. Your stickies can be configured with key bindings in the terminal now, and you can do more easily duplicate them. And time shift, you can deleting a snapshot is going to give you a confirmation now. And so we have a number of other features inside of here that works out really well. Now let's go ahead and have a look at our wallpapers, since they always give us beautiful wallpapers here in Linux Mint. So go on down to Wilma. Wilma! All right, so now we can go ahead and have a look at our desktops. These are beautiful. Look at these guys. Oh, I love the darker themes. Oh, there's nice. We actually had a couple of eclipses this summer. I got a chance to watch the 2 in the United States this summer, so that was fun. Monument Valley. Oh, I love this place. Monument Valley's awesome down there in Utah. White Sands. Dude, this is one for me. Like, I've been to all these places. White Sands. Nice. Here's a CPU. I've been here too. No kidding. Oh, here's a road. I have no idea where that road is. Random body of water. Some abstracts. There's some boats. And let's see. Oh, beautiful. So we always have some really good spots there. I'm going to, of course, What am I going to do? Let's see. I've been to Monument Valley and I've been to White Sands. I like White Sands, one of my favorite national parks. Let's go ahead and drop onto the White Sands desktop to wrap up the video. So here we have a really good instance here, and everything's just like Linux Mint in usual. It works out really well. It's easy to use, easy to install, and makes a whole lot of sense. I do really enjoy a lot of the changes they make, and hopefully this gives us a much more secure and easier to use system than even more so than we've had in the past. Let's just have a brief look. Of course, you can go into our system reports, and it no longer tells us to install extra language packs. It just kind of figures that, hey, you've installed what you've wanted to. And then here's our Linux kernels and our update manager. So you can see that now we have, this is the active. We also have this one installed. This is because I installed this and then I pushed updates right away. We don't actually have the ability to go back to a previous kernel if you wanted to easily. I'm sure there are ways you can go ahead and get those installed, but out of the box, it doesn't have those. So there you have it, guys. Linux Mint 22. I'm generally hesitant to advise people to jump onto a new version right away. But I don't have a lot of qualms about this one. Still, we might want to wait. Of course, it's beta right now, so don't jump right this second. But when this rolls out, this might be a good candidate for an early update. I'll probably push my test computer up to this version as soon as it rolls out, just for some early testing. As I do keep one computer on edge, I keep two computers held back a little bit. But this one is definitely an awesome feature, and you can have a look at the blog post over there on Linux Mint. I'll go ahead and include that in the links here, and you can go ahead and download your copy of this. So with that, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.